My climbing rose, the generous gardener, is refusing to stop blooming in the middle of November, I guess because of the warm temperatures we were having recently. But today, in this video, I'm going to talk about how I put my climbing roses to bed. All canes in. So by this time, it is the middle of November. We already successfully prepared our roses for fall, and let's just quickly walk through main rules how to prepare our roses for fall. Here is my video, by the way. We stop fertilizing our rose 4 to 6 weeks before the first date of the frost. We stop producing slow release fertilizer at the end of summer. So for me it is August, approximately August, I stop feeding my rose with slow release fertilizer. And why is that? Because slow release fertilizer will be working its way through the root system of the rose all the way to fall, and we don't want fertilizer to encourage new blooms and new growth on our rose. We want our rose, look at these canes, we want our rose to start preparing for winter, and all these canes, we would want them to become dull green and kind of almost sinister purple looking. It symbolizes that rose is getting all the metabolism in the rose system is slowing down, and the nutrients intake is slowing down, and the rose is getting to go into winter. And when the really cold weather comes, when really freezing conditions appear, rose's life will almost come to a still point. Rose would be ready to hibernate. So the first thing what we need to do for our rose, let me just tell you what it is. This is a generous gardener rose, a middle-aged lady. This rose is almost 8 years old, and for rose which can grow around 10-15 years, this rose is fairly middle-aged rose. So it had, as you can see, it has its very bare feet. I really cannot train it into the zigzag fashion or like in horizontal fashion here, because I don't have a lot of space here. My arch here is quite narrow, it's probably 1.5 feet, and the generous gardener is quite a vigorous rose, especially if it's an older one, older bush. So I just let these strong big canes go straight up, and I don't even fight them. But the very important thing when you're getting ready your climbing rose to go to bed is you have to make sure that foundation on which the rose is growing is solid, sturdy. It's not going to be blown by the wind together with the rose root system, because winds in winter can be quite severe and substantial. So when I am looking at my rose arch here, which is approximately under 10 feet high, I can see that it starts bending this way dangerously. So I'm thinking I have to do something about here, some sort of a support. Maybe I will install the pole, metal pole behind there. That's my son's boat, by the way. Sorry for the winter entourage here. But I'm going to put probably some sort of a pole there, or I will tie this arch to my tree, to my evergreen tree. This way I will make sure that the strong wind, there is some sort of a wind tunnel here, is not going to take this foundation down. Also, if you need to paint your support, your arch, now is a good time when your rose is losing leaves and you can see your supporting structure better. You can attend to it now or in the beginning of spring. I don't need to do anything with this arch. It's looking good. The only thing, I will tie it to my evergreen tree to make sure that it's not going to blow over. Now here I have 2 roses growing. One is older than another. This one is almost 8 years old. And this one on this side is maybe 3-4 years old, so it's much younger. And I understand that in several years I might be coming into a situation where I need to change this rose, because this rose might be stopping producing flowers. It will be becoming older, but you never know. I know some people who have roses in their garden for 20, 30 years, and those roses are still producing wonderful blooms. What I also do for my beautiful rose, when fall comes, I stop trimming my rose. So during the summer, I give it a haircut here and there to make sure that my climbing rose stays in shape. But once fall comes, I don't want really my climbing rose to start producing these long side shoots. I don't want those new shoots to be damaged by the frost, so I stop cutting my rose and I wait till the real first frost comes, which is in mid-20s Fahrenheit, 25, 26 Fahrenheit in the night, through the night, big, heavy, nice, good frost, and then I can trim my rose. Why do we do that? Why do we trim our rose in the fall? Because we don't want punishing winds to whip this rose all winter and create all sorts of damages. The canes would be rubbing against each other and they would be damaged by the wind, and then the wind is really cold and that creates even more damage. So that's why when the first strong frost hits, we cut all these long stems. That's what I'm going to do. I was thinking for a minute that maybe I should tie them up, but it will be too much of a job. As you can see, it's a big, nice, fairly old, big developed climber, and it would be too difficult to tie it all together. So what I will do, I already tied all the big canes to the structure, so they are not moving. Only the side shoots are moving, as you can see, and my rose is still blooming. So after the first frost, I give it a nice haircut. This way I make sure that nothing is swaying in the wind and damaging itself against, against canes. Also very important in the middle, when winter comes, to make sure that the root ball of your rose is well protected. Here I have this rose growing in a slightly raised bed, not too much. So what I'm going to do after the first big frost, I'm going to put decomposed cow manure. I like to do it in the garden. I do it all over the garden under a lot of shrubberies and perennials and beds where I do annuals. I just give it a little shovel here and there of black compost, but because my roses are such heavy feeders, I make sure that I give a generous amount of good compost into this soil. And because this rose is very winter hardy, it's hardy to zone 4. I garden in zone 7, so no problem for this rose to overwinter. I don't need to really put a lot of soil here around the root ball of the rose. But people who garden in colder climates, or people who have a very, rose which is not hardy, do need to go to extra protections. And because we garden in so many different areas, what I would advise you to do if you really don't know what to do with your rose, find the Rose Society in your state, if you live in US, give them a call and find out what's the best practice in your area to do about putting your climbing rose to bed. And they would be very knowledgeable and they will share their knowledge with big enthusiasm. But here, I like to do very well decomposed cow manure. I lay it down here, always to the brims, and next spring, I'm not removing it. This decomposed cow manure is going to work itself all the way into the soil, will condition soil, and my rose will be happy to grow in it next spring. Generous gardener rose is very disease resistant, so I really don't worry about black spot and all other problems about this rose. I barely spray it, so I do collect the leaves around the rose whichever I can, but if they're flying all over the place, I don't really worry. Because it's such a good disease resistant rose. But here you can see I have a ivy growing, and it's a self-seeder here. I'm not going to keep it here. Rose roots don't like competition. So this ivy will be replanted next year. What I have here, well, I have my goosey here, but here I have 2 boxwoods, and these 2 boxwoods are going to stay here and will be trained as a little nice little cute little bowl. Hopefully, eventually in several years this will happen. But otherwise, again, decomposed cow manure into this box, and my roses will be going into overwintering season all right. Well, I'm not sure if this rose would be happy to grow downwards, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to train it to go a little bit downwards. And for this job, as you probably know from my previous videos, I'm using a green elastic, which I bought, by the way, on Etsy. I will show it here. Oh gosh, the store was getting out of business. 200 yards of green elastic for, I believe, $20, something like that. I jumped on it because I wanted to have something green in my garden. I don't like all sorts of colorful plastic stuff in my garden, so this is perfect. Something which is not going to, what do you mean, collapse? No. Something which is going to live through winter and will keep my rose, yes, my husband says, sturdy. Thank you, dear. And will survive through winter and will keep my roses safe. So here we go, elastic, beautiful thing. So that's it. My rose is happy to grow. Here everything is secure. The only thing what I'm going to do, I will put a nice cow manure at the base, and then I will trim my rose to survive the winter and delight us next spring with beautiful, magnificent blooms again. Happy gardening. I will see you next time.